Hi everyone, my name is Nicole and I'm here from Reading Out of Season, and I'm going to do the Booktube Newbie Tag as I haven't done one. Um, I did have a YouTube channel a long time ago and I gave up on it, and so in some cases the answers will be the same and in some cases they'll be different, but let's just get into it. The first question, why did you start this channel? So I am American, but I live in Australia now. And I just don't know many people around here, particularly not people who like to read as much as I do. I have my in-laws and I can talk to my mom online, but my husband and my kids both like to read, but I really want a wider variety and a wider circle of readers to talk to. And so I'm hoping that Booktube will be that for me. Let's see. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? I don't know how unique I am in Booktube. You know, I had a channel about 5 years ago, and I was one of the oldest people on Booktube, I think, at that time. However, I don't think that's the case anymore. I think there's a really, really wide variety of ages, so that's not something different. I think the only things that are maybe slightly different about me are that I am, an American who no longer lives in America, and perhaps that'll come up in conversation sometimes, and that I find reading to be or I make reading be a very sustainable and affordable kind of hobby for me. I read a lot, and so I'm not willing to spend tons and tons of money doing it, and so I have a lot of strategies for how to read in a way that makes financial sense for me. So I think that's probably, and I know I'm not unique in that. There are lots of people talking about that too, but I would say it's probably not the majority of people. So that's at least a little bit different. Let's see. What am I most excited about for this new channel? It would be interaction with people. I'm actually really extroverted, and living in a new country where I don't know many people is not. I love it here. I'm having a really good time here. I don't have any, and people are very friendly in Australia, I've found so far, but I don't have a community the way I did, and so I miss that. And I'm hoping that I will have people I can kind of get a little back and forth going with about what we're reading and what we're interested in. What challenges in starting this channel will be hardest to overcome? Probably technology. I'll have to get my kids help sometimes. And my husband works in IT, but I don't know if he'll be that interested in helping with this, but my kids might. Um, Maybe technology, I would say. What questions would you ask your favorite booktuber? Let's see. I guess some of these same questions, why did you start this a booktube channel, and then have you found what you were looking for? Has it worked out for you? Has it been worth the time and effort? That kind of thing. Why do you love reading? Oh, I have always loved reading, and it is the only thing that I can do where I tend to be kind of scattered, and my mind is running a million hours or a million miles an hour. And the thing that brings me out of that best is reading. Reading is like a time machine, and that it takes you to different time periods and you get to live in that for a while. And it's also like it's more bigger than any kind of techie virtual reality system. I mean, you're actually living some other life for a while, and I find nothing is quite like that. And I'm really very, very evangelical about it. I'm evangelical about reading as a hobby, and just that it is such a great way to spend time. It is so valuable in many ways. And I guess what I like best, though, is how it transports me to other times and places, and helps me live other experiences I wouldn't live otherwise. When did I start reading? So I actually found a photo of me in the 70s. You'll get to see that one. I don't remember a time I wasn't reading. I grew up in a family of readers. My mom taught English and my dad taught history, and both of those are book heavy kind of occupations. And so they were both reading all the time. And so my brother and sister and I read a lot too. I studied English and journalism at uni. I was a news junkie too at the time. And I ended up working as a newspaper reporter for 8 years. And then as a, let's say, tech writer slash admin job after that until my eldest was born. And so I guess reading words, language, that has always been my life and my main interest. When did I start? Oh, we just did that one. What book or series got you into reading? So, I don't remember a time I wasn't reading. And I remember being very young and absolutely loving Chicken Soup with Rice by Maurice Sendak. Like, that was a huge favorite of mine at one point when I was very young. However, as far as just really sitting down and getting absorbed into a book and going one after the other and not being able to put them down, I would say there are two. The first is Chronicles of Narnia series by C.S. Lewis. My fifth grade teacher had that on a bookshelf in his classroom, and I just picked up one when I had a little time and started reading it, and that was the end of everything for me for a while. I just could not put them down. And then the second was something that it was an older book even when I was that age, and I am thinking it's probably completely out of print and nobody's ever heard of it. But they were these books about. I will find one and I will put it up in the corner there. I want to say her name was Eleanor Cameron, and she wrote these books about these kids who built a spaceship in their backyard, and they took the spaceship. They packed a lunch, then they'd take the spaceship up to this tiny little planet that had mushrooms all over it that was situated between the Earth and the Moon, and they would hang out there for a while and help the beings who lived there, and then they would come home safe for dinner. And that, I knew at the time it was ridiculous, but there was something really enticing about the idea of being able to just get into a little spaceship and go out and have an adventure and still come home and still come home at the end of the day. So anyway, I want to say the Mushroom Planet, a trip to the Mushroom Planet. Like I said, I'll find it and I'll put it up in the corner. That's just the first. There are a number of books. The library I went to had maybe two of them, and then I had to go through interlibrary loan to find the rest of them. And I think they're probably all out of print at this point. Let's see, where do I read? I read either just, well, I have ebooks, e-readers, and so I can take them with me and read really wherever I am, out and about or whatever. However, I read either just sitting in a chair or in bed. I do read before I go to sleep every night. I find it's a good way kind of to wind down. Of course, sometimes you get too. Last night, I got too engrossed in a book. I wanted to see how it ended, and then it was like 2 in the morning by the time I went to sleep. So that's always a risk, but whatever. What kinds of books do you like to read? So I'm very much a mood reader, and I go through phases where I really focus on one kind of book or another. When I had a booktube channel before, I was reading lots and lots of memoirs. There have been times where I've just read lots and lots of historical fiction. There have been times, I remember one time I read tons of books that were historical, well, yeah, historical fiction set in France. So I read Les Mis, and I read A Tale of Two Cities. I read all the Scarlet Pimpernel books. I read four of the Emile Zola books, not all of them because there are a lot. And I read some contemporary books. I remember there was a series about the Empress Josephine. And anyway, I go through these phases where, like, that's not all I read, but where I'm really focused on one particular thing. Right now, it's murder mysteries. I didn't read a lot of those growing up. I just never had really any interest until now in my 50s. And all of a sudden, I'm reading tons of murder mysteries. So I would say that's probably what I'm reading most of now, although not entirely. I'm also reading literary fiction, historical fiction, still reading some memoir. I love books that have like big family mysteries, and you kind of go back and forth in time to see how people are dealing with the mystery and then unravel the mystery at the same time. I always really enjoy that. And sometimes I love these like multi-generational sagas. Those could be a lot of fun too. I sometimes like kind of cozy reads. And then I read even some horror, and I love the idea of reading thrillers. I rarely actually like the thrillers. So I think of myself as a reader who likes thrillers, but I really don't know if I can say that because I most of the time I'm not that happy with them. I just think it's me. It's nothing wrong with them. It's just I'm more of a murder mystery person than a thriller person. Different people have different likes. And let's see, what does your book collection look like? We have family bookshelves. We're talking about putting more along this back wall. Because we haven't been living here that long since we moved to Australia. We do have one little set of bookshelves that is completely full, and it is very heavily used by everyone in my family. And hopefully, at some point, I'll have more bookshelves and have better space to put things. I mainly read ebooks. I had for a long time. I had a Kindle. Um, and this it was very easy to borrow from the library on this. So I use that, but then I have, as of late, moved to the world of, let's see, the world of Kobo. I'm reading Kobo now. Uh, I picked this up again kind of recently because there are a lot of old murder mysteries on Kindle Unlimited, so I decided to get Kindle Unlimited for some period of time until I get tired of what's reading on there, and then I'll just go with this. I do also use Kobo Plus. I love using the subscription services. I know a lot of people don't like subscription services because they want to own their media, and I get that. My kids feel that way very strongly. It's just not where I am. I am If I'm going to reread a book, it's probably going to be a classic and in public domain anyway. So I'm not too concerned about having the books like if something happens. I am more interested in just having a wide variety of books available to me so I can read a lot and I don't have to pay a lot. And the subscription services work well for that. I also use the library a lot. I go to op shops to find books, and I have a lot of fun kind of picking through, book sales and things. That's kind of a major source of entertainment for me. So those are my answers to the questions in the newbie book tag. Do please consider liking and subscribing, and maybe putting a comment in. I am, again, very much looking for a community of book readers. I think Booktube is probably that. I have been followed Booktube, of course, for a long time. I, for a short time, had a Booktube channel just before COVID, and I've been watching Booktube for ages. However, now I'm starting to subscribe to everybody under the reading out of season tag. And then I just want to mention why I chose that name. It's because, for two reasons. One, I live in Australia and I'm not really used to the seasons. And so I'm not necessarily reading books in the season that, like, I might be reading them in the season they were intended for, but it's not necessarily the season here. I've been reading a lot of wintry books, and it's summer here. It's warm, and it stays bright late because it's not long after the summer solstice. And then the other reason is because I read a lot of older books. Some of them are a little old, they're just backlist. Some of them are very old. I like classics. I like old books that aren't really quite classics. I'm fine if you. I think if you want to read a lot of books and have it be affordable, you have to maybe have a certain amount of flexibility with what you read. So I do allow myself flexibility. And the other thing is, there are so many really, really good books that are worth reading, and there just isn't time to read them all. So I feel like I have plenty of books to choose from. I don't have to read the newest book right when it comes out. I do sometimes. The most obvious recent example of that is James by Percival Everett. I did get that because I so wanted to read it, and it was worth every penny. So I do go out and buy books when there's one that I really, really want to read. It's just that most of the time I'm quite happy to have a little patience and a little flexibility and read something that's more easily available to me. Anyway, again, like and subscribe, please, and I will talk to you later on. Thanks.